In this video, I'm going to teach you the trick that I like to call pre-columns, and that looks like this. All you're doing is tossing each ball straight up in the air as you juggle two in one hand. And the reason I call it pre-columns is because ultimately it sets you up to learn the trick columns, which looks like this. Now we're going to learn columns in another video, so in this video what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to do two in one hand while doing columns like this. And we're going to learn all the foundations that you need to learn all the really cool variations that you can learn when you learn the proper juggling trick columns. Now, of course, if you're going to learn it in one hand, make sure you learn it in both hands, and that way you'll be prepared for everything that is to come. Now, in one sense, like a lot of beginner juggling tricks, once you have seen me do the trick, you probably already know what to do, and so what I would recommend is just grab your juggling equipment and get started and start practicing while I go through this video, because I'm going to give you some tips that I'm sure will help you along the way. Now, when you first start this trick, one thing that you probably notice, but you might not think of as you're practicing, is that the juggling balls are not just going straight up, but they're going straight up side by side. So you have kind of an inside toss and then you have an outside toss. And so it's a little bit different than just regular two in one hand where the balls move in a circle like this, because this is just the same toss over and over again, where, as I said, you're going to do an inside and then an outside toss with columns. So that's just something that you're going to have to keep track of. Now, another thing that's going to happen as you're practicing is, especially when you're beginning with a lot of tricks, the tendency is to not throw the balls very high, because that'll help it feel more controlled. If you think about it, the higher you throw the ball, if your throw is just a little bit off, then it's going to be even more off if you throw it really high, because there's more distance for the ball to travel. And so there's a tendency to practice with the juggling balls really low, but as you can see with this trick, it can feel really fast-paced and almost manic, trying to get your hands in place and release the juggling ball at the right time, and so that can make it more difficult than it needs to be. So what I would recommend is just practice tossing one ball and just try to get it up, and again, do your inside toss and then your outside toss, and you just want it to go a couple inches above your head, and that way when you're practicing with two, it can be a little bit more relaxed, and you can really think about that next throw and make sure that everything is in order. Now, of course, as I already said, you do want to learn the same trick with your opposite hand. And one thing that's cool about this is once you have learned it in both hands, you actually already have all the skills to do a really basic column style trick, and that is to just switch which hand you're using when you're doing pre-columns. So you just start with your right hand, and then on the middle ball toss up, you just switch to your left, and then when the middle ball goes up, you just switch back to your right. And you can see this is kind of a cool pattern that's not too difficult to learn, and once you have really mastered this, you're going to be really set up to learn columns, and like I said, there's a bunch of variations that we're going to show you in other videos. So just work on these techniques. It's not too hard to learn once you've learned the basics, and once you have learned how to do your basic pre-columns, because it's a two-ball trick, you can always mix it in with your other two-ball tricks, whether you're doing basic two in one or your reverse two in one. You can always throw in a couple of columns and then rotate like this. Another thing that you can do with this trick is it's really easy to go from your basic three-ball cascade and then to go into that little pre-column variation that I showed you, and then go right back into your cascade. And so even with just a couple of tricks, you can already start to do some really cool variations by just mixing them up and going in between the tricks you already know, which will make it really seem like you're already a serious juggler, which is kind of cool considering we haven't really learned that many tricks yet. So that is pre-columns.